You have to see this hysteria in the Russian Federation over a gift to Aliyev. The Ukrainian armed forces have outmaneuvered the Russians here as well. Urgent. Russia is anxiously awaiting Istanbul. The negotiations will take place no matter what. Trump has shocked everyone with his most important decision. What is happening in the Oval Office? The transformation of the war continues.
The standoff between Azerbaijan and Russia continues. President Aliyev accepted the Ukrainian armed forces chevrons as a gift and called for more of the same.
Thank you very much. Keep it up.
In addition, Aliyev advised Ukrainians not to agree to the occupation of their territories.
And I think this deeply resonates with the profound aspirations of the resilient Ukrainian people to never, ever accept any form of occupation. This is the main piece of advice. That's what we did.
But even against its own partners, the Russian Federation is ready to simply open fire. And we remember now that Russian propagandists are openly calling for an invasion of the sovereign state of Azerbaijan, calling Baku a Russian city, and drawing parallels with Odessa. And there are many, many other steps being taken to supposedly show Aliyev his place. But Aliyev is acting from a position of strength.
Putin's position is weakening not only in Azerbaijan. It seems that the friendship with Trump has gone down the drain. Senator Lindsey Graham stated that Trump will kick Putin's ass.
Putin, your turn is coming. Donald Trump is the Scotty Scheffler of American politics and foreign diplomacy, and he's about to kick your ass. Trump is reportedly planning to impose significant tariffs on those nations who continue to buy Russian oil, specifically targeting major importers such as China, India, and Brazil. These three prominent countries collectively purchase approximately 80% of the readily available and cheap Russian oil, thereby effectively helping to sustain and fuel the ongoing Russian war machine.
A new round of negotiations will take place in Istanbul. Ending the war no longer seems to be on the table. The plan is to agree on another prisoner exchange.
It was agreed that at the third meeting, the parties would exchange written analyses of the documents they received. From the Russian side, it was a draft memorandum. From our side, a negotiation framework. So, accordingly, as I understand it, the parties may hand over these documents, but there definitely won't be any heated discussions.
The Vatican also wants to actively help with humanitarian issues. Pope Leo XIV is planning to resume dialogue with the Russian Orthodox Church and Patriarch Kirill. Previously, he had already communicated with Putin.
The current talk about intensifying relations with the Russian Orthodox Church is an opportunity to establish contact, in particular to work on the humanitarian track. For example, the release of 400 Ukrainian children, a list of whom President Zelensky personally handed over to Leo XIV several months ago.
The new pope called the war a true imperialist invasion and stated that Russian troops are committing crimes against humanity in Ukraine.
These days, my thoughts often turn to the Ukrainian people, who have been subjected to new, serious attacks on civilians and infrastructure. I pray for all the innocent victims, especially for the children and families. Once again, I strongly urge an end to the war and support for initiatives of dialogue and peace.
The 29th meeting in the Ramstein format has taken place, at which Ukraine's Minister of Defense Shmyhal stated that another $6 billion are needed this year to close the gap in weapons procurement.
Russian terror continues, which is why we need to strengthen our air defense. I am asking the United States to provide these weapons for procurement and our European partners to provide the necessary funding for their purchase.
German Defense Minister Pistorius announced the delivery of 5 Patriot systems to Ukraine, the very ones of which Trump had promised 17.
Germany will provide additional crucial air defense systems and much-needed ammunition. Germany will also contribute significantly to the delivery of 5 urgently needed Patriot missile systems as soon as humanly possible.
There are absolutely no discrepancies whatsoever. Obviously, we are still talking about a significant number of 17 launches, which can actually make up 5 complete Patriot missile defense batteries, since a single Patriot battery typically consists of anywhere from 4 to 8 launchers.
In addition, the United Kingdom and Germany will provide 220,000 shells for the Gepard anti-aircraft systems, as well as funding for UAVs.
As for air defense, we have agreed on a partnership to supply critically important air defense missiles to Ukraine. And finally, as part of NATO's comprehensive aid package, the United Kingdom will allocate another £40 million.
It seems things are getting worse and worse for Putin. Even those who had previously remained neutral are now starting to take action against Russia from all sides.
Istanbul 3-0. The Kremlin is rushing to negotiations. Did Trump's threats work? Or is Russia preparing a fake ceasefire? Exchange, yes. Peace? No. Moscow is playing dirty again. This isn't diplomacy, it's a farce. But the West has prepared a powerful response that will crush Russia.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine today. Join us now.
A new round of negotiations and new hopes for Istanbul. Turkish publications have reported that a new round of talks between Ukraine and Russia could take place as early as this week. The meeting is scheduled for the 23rd of July to 24th in Turkey.
In fact, over the past, let's say, at least a week, Russia has been the most active party in trying to resume peace talks in Istanbul. They needed to show Trump that they are not against peace negotiations. They needed to somehow ease Trump's irritation, his dissatisfaction, and once again try to convince him that Putin wants peace. Moreover, starting last week, the Kremlin began actively using a dishonest tactic, though this is typical of the Russian style. They started accusing Ukraine, claiming that supposedly Ukraine does not want negotiations, that it is refusing to negotiate.
Thus, for this reason alone, Ukraine simply could not refuse to participate in the negotiation process. And it's also likely that Kyiv was coordinating the negotiations with the Americans. And the recent visit of Special Representative Kellogg is proof of that. Moreover, on the 19th of July, the president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, stated that the head of the Ukrainian delegation, Rustem Umerov, had conveyed a proposal to the Russian side to hold a new round of negotiations. In Russia, after the latest threats from Trump, they realized that it was not worth angering the American president any further.
In my opinion, Moscow is very concerned about the shift in Trump's position. Outwardly, they act as if nothing has happened. And of course, they pretend not to care. No, they do care. And the fact that Peskov started actively raising the issue of resuming peace talks last week, the fact that negotiations are now resuming in Istanbul. Before this, Russia was in no hurry to engage in these talks. During the visit of Kit Kellogg, Trump's special representative for Ukraine, when he was in Kyiv, there were no airstrikes on Kyiv. And it's unlikely that this was a coincidence. After Trump expressed his irritation over the strikes on Ukraine, including Kyiv, it's possible that the Kremlin decided not to take any risks.
As for the negotiations themselves, not much is expected from them. Most likely, the outcome will be the same as the previous two rounds: a prisoner exchange, which is undoubtedly necessary, and unrealistic conditions from Russia for a ceasefire.
They might negotiate about the further algorithm or the future logic of the talks, basically a kind of roadmap for the negotiations. This will be difficult to achieve, and it's unlikely they'll reach an agreement. Nevertheless, the very logic of the negotiations themselves show to conduct them further, the algorithm for future talks this could also be a subject of discussion. For now, I don't see any real willingness on Russia's part for any substantive agreements. Yes, there could be new agreements on humanitarian issues, on further prisoner exchanges, and on other humanitarian matters.
The parties can also discuss halting strikes on critical infrastructure, the very issue that was raised back in the spring of this year.
According to some reports, as Turkish media write, the situation with strikes on critical infrastructure facilities may be up for discussion. They might reach agreements on this. Another matter is how to distinguish, to somehow separate strikes on critical infrastructure from airstrikes in general. This is very difficult. And at the very least, there could be accidental strikes. Or they might claim, for example, that they accidentally hit a critical infrastructure facility.
But it's probably not worth expecting any real action from the Russians. Most likely, Russia is going to Istanbul to simulate a negotiation process for Trump, to show a flurry of activity so that the American president once again believes that Russia wants peace, while actually just buying time for themselves. Whether to believe empty promises again is an open question. But we hope that this time Trump's position will not change.
The Gur robots have created hell for the occupiers in Donbas. Exclusive footage is blowing up the internet. Drones have blown up Russia's petrochemical giant. Putin is screaming. The occupiers are already in Pokrovsk. Truth or fake? The Russians are advancing on the Dnipro. The AFU are obliterating the infantry. Watch explosive details right now.
35 Ukrainian drones shot down. That's the result published by the Russian Ministry of Defense. Meanwhile, Russian public pages and propaganda media are publishing the results of strikes on Russian military facilities. In this footage, drones attacked the Samara region and targeted the Novokuybishevsk petrochemical company. The plant produces raw materials for explosives used in shells, aerial bombs, and other munitions. It is also the only producer in Russia of synthetic ethyl alcohol and paradiote-butylphenol, a unique component for resins, plasticizers, and antioxidants that has no analogs either in Russia or in the post-Soviet space, according to media reports. More than 10 explosions were reported in Rostov. While military targets in Russia are being eliminated with the help of drones from the air, on the front lines, Ukrainian defenders are taking out the enemy using ground robots.
Today, indeed, we are talking about the fact that if in the lower airspace, for example, drones now in Supreme, they create dead zones where neither personnel nor military equipment can move, everything there is destroyed as much as possible. Accordingly, we are saying that robotic systems today can also conduct combat operations, and such combat operations are already taking place on the battlefield.
Ukrainian scouts report the elimination of nearly 100 occupiers using ground drones in the Toretsk and Pokrovsk directions. The latter reports the presence of Russian sabotage and reconnaissance groups.
We are saying that the enemy is indeed attempting to enter the urban agglomeration using sabotage and reconnaissance groups, and we are also saying that these sabotage and reconnaissance groups are quite likely aiming to try to disrupt our logistics or defensive logistics in order to cut them off as much as possible and complicate the tasks our troops are carrying out in Pokrovsk to defend this key defensive area.
The enemy has focused on trying to demonstrate at least some presence in the Dnipropetrovsk region, or at least along its administrative borders in the Novopavlivka direction. According to Ukrainian military personnel, the Russians need this so that the statements made by Russian propaganda, which have been ongoing for almost a month now, have at least some minimal factual basis.
Any advance by Russian troops is amplified. Any advance by Russian troops is exaggerated to such an extent that this information is not only intended for domestic audiences, although obviously victories are needed to create them. If there are none, they have to be fabricated. Clearly, this is an attempt at psychological influence both on Ukraine's defense forces and accordingly on our people.
Ukraine and Denmark are jointly developing an AI-powered drone interceptor. The system can automatically detect, track and destroy various types of enemy UAVs, from commercial Mavics to reconnaissance and strike Shaheds. Other countries that see Russia as a threat are also taking care of their own defense. The United Kingdom, together with Japan and Italy, is working on the creation of a new flagship sixth-generation fighter jet, which, in the event of a war between Russia and NATO, would be able to reach military targets on Russian territory undetected by air defense systems and attack them without refueling. This is reported by The Telegraph.